Marcus Thompson had always been a creature of habit. Every night at exactly 10 o'clock, after finishing his work at the computer, he would rise from his chair, walk to the window, and observe the city intersection below. The fifth floor of the building on Riverside Avenue provided a perfect view of the traffic light that controlled the flow between four busy streets. On that particular November evening, as rain drummed against the glass, something caught his attention. The traffic light was behaving strangely. The green light was flashing in uneven intervals, not in the standard rhythm he had known for years. Instead of the usual steady glow, he saw brief flashes, followed by pauses, then more flashing in different combinations. Probably just a malfunction, Marcus thought, returning to his evening routine. He worked as an IT technician at a local firm and was accustomed to technical problems. But something bothered him. Those strange sequences of flashing seemed almost deliberate. The next morning, he mentioned it to his neighbor Mrs. Chin, an elderly woman who lived in apartment 4B. She had been complaining about the noise from the intersection lately, how the traffic patterns seemed different. "Oh yes, dear," she said, adjusting her thick glasses. "I've noticed it too. But you know, I haven't seen Mr. Rodriguez from 4A in days. Usually he's so punctual with his evening walks." Marcus didn't think much of it at first. People went on trips, visited family. But that evening, as he positioned himself by the window again, he decided to record the light's behavior on his phone. The scientist in him was curious about the pattern. For 45 minutes, he recorded. The green light would flash, short, 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 long, 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 short, short, short. Then a pause. Then, long, short, long, short, long, long, long. As he stared at the recorded footage later that night, a chill ran down his spine. Those weren't random malfunctions. The pattern was too deliberate, too structured. And then it hit him. He recognized the rhythm from his Boy Scout days, when old Mr. Patterson had taught them basic Morse code during camping trips. Short, 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 long, 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 short, 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 ss. Long, short, long, short, long, 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 and his hands trembling slightly, Marcus grabbed a pen and paper, replaying the video frame by frame. The complete message made his blood freeze. "Do not leave." Sleep didn't come easily that night. Marcus tossed and turned, trying to rationalize what he had seen. Traffic lights didn't send Morse code messages. It had to be some kind of electrical interference, a coincidence that created patterns resembling actual communication. But the next evening, he found himself at the window again, phone ready. This time, the message was different. "They see you." The deliberate nature of the communication was undeniable now. Someone or something was using the traffic light to send messages specifically to him, or to anyone who might be watching from this particular vantage point. Marcus decided to conduct an experiment. The following night, he positioned a flashlight by his window and flashed back a simple message in Morse code. "Who are you?" The traffic light's response came immediately. "Friend. Stay inside after dark." His rational mind struggled to process this. He checked the city's traffic management system online, looking for any reports of malfunctions or maintenance work. Nothing. According to the official records, the intersection's traffic light was functioning normally. That's when he noticed something else troubling. The building's elevator had been out of order for 3 days now, with a handwritten "maintenance" sign that looked suspiciously unprofessional. And Mrs. Chen was right. He hadn't seen several neighbors recently. Mr. Rodriguez from 4A, the young couple from 3C, even grumpy Mr. Volkov from the second floor who always complained about noise. Marcus began keeping a log. He noted which apartments had lights on in the evenings, which parking spots remained empty, which mailboxes were overflowing. The pattern was disturbing. People were disappearing, starting from the lower floors and working upward. By the end of the week, Marcus knew he needed help. The messages from the traffic light had become more frequent and more urgent. 3 floors empty now. They climb at night. Do not use elevator. The city had a department that most people didn't know about, the City Bureau of Supernatural Incidents, CBSI. Officially, they investigated unusual municipal phenomena. Unofficially, they dealt with things that regular city services couldn't explain or handle. Marcus called their hotline, expecting to be dismissed as a crank. Instead, The receptionist transferred him immediately to Agent Sarah Chen, no relation to his neighbor, as she quickly clarified. Mr. Thompson, Agent Chen said when she arrived at his apartment the next afternoon, accompanied by 2 technicians. We've been monitoring some unusual electromagnetic signatures in your area. Your call confirms our suspicions. Agent Chen was in her 30s, professional but not dismissive. Her team set up equipment throughout his apartment, electromagnetic field detectors, signal analyzers, high-speed cameras aimed at the intersection. The traffic light is indeed broadcasting on frequencies it shouldn't have access to, reported Jake Martinez, the lead technician. It's somehow connected to a 4G network, but there's no record of it being equipped with such capabilities. More importantly, added Dr. Lisa Park, the team's scientific analyst, the signal strength and pattern consistency suggest intelligent control, not random malfunction. That evening, with CBSI monitoring equipment recording everything, the traffic light delivered its most chilling message yet. Agents detected. Accelerating timeline. Agent Chen's radio crackled to life. Base, this is Unit 7. We've got reports of missing persons in buildings throughout the sector. Pattern suggests coordinated disappearances. The CBSI team worked through the night, analyzing data and trying to trace the source of the traffic light's mysterious network connection. Dr. Park discovered something that made everyone uneasy. The light wasn't just receiving signals. It was broadcasting complex data packets to unknown recipients. It's like it's reporting, she explained, pointing to her computer screen. Every time someone enters or leaves the building, every time a light goes on or off in an apartment, it's all being transmitted. Marcus felt like a specimen under a microscope. How long has this been going on? Based on the data logs we've recovered, Jake said grimly, at least 6 months. Maybe longer. The implications were terrifying. Whatever was controlling the traffic light had been observing the building's residents for months, learning their habits, their routines, their weaknesses. As dawn approached, Agent Chen received an urgent call. Buildings across the city were reporting similar phenomena: traffic lights, street lamps, even some electronic billboards displaying strange patterns. But this building, Marcus's building, appeared to be the epicenter. We need to evacuate you, Agent Chen told Marcus. Whatever's happening here, you're in the center of it. Marcus looked out his window at the traffic light, which had remained ominously normal since sunrise. What about the message telling me not to leave? We can't trust the source, Agent Chen replied. For all we know, it's trying to keep you here for a reason. But before they could finalize evacuation plans, Jake's equipment detected massive electromagnetic activity throughout the building. Every electronic device, phones, tablets, smart TVs, even digital alarm clocks, began displaying the same message simultaneously. Evacuation will be prevented. Stay calm. The building's main entrance doors wouldn't open. The electronic locks had somehow engaged, and even Agent Chen's override codes were ineffective. The windows, Marcus discovered, had been sealed from the outside with some kind of transparent resin that had hardened overnight. We're trapped, Dr. Park said, her usual scientific calm beginning to crack. The traffic light resumed its Morse communications, but now the messages were different, longer, more complex. Subjects secured for study. Cooperation ensures minimal discomfort. Resistance will be noted. Jake's scanners detected movement in the building's ventilation system, something large, mechanical, moving between floors. The elevator shaft showed similar activity, despite the car being stuck on the ground floor. What happened to the other residents? Marcus asked, though he dreaded the answer. Agent Chen was monitoring her communication equipment. Base reports that similar buildings in 12 cities have gone dark in the past 72 hours. No contact, no life signs, but the structures remain intact. Through his window, Marcus could see people on the street going about their normal business, completely unaware that the building behind them had become a prison. Cars stopped at the traffic light, obeyed its signals, and continued on their way. The normalcy of it all made the situation even more surreal. The Morse messages continued. Species adaptation study in progress. Data collection 87% complete. Final phase initiating. Dr. Park's equipment detected new activity. Something was being pumped into the building's air circulation system. Not gas, not toxins, but some kind of electromagnetic field that made their electronic equipment malfunction and caused a strange tingling sensation in their bodies. It's scanning us, Dr. Park realized, looking at her readings. Every cell, every neural pathway. It's creating detailed biological maps. As their equipment failed one by one, the team was forced to rely on basic observation. Marcus noticed that the building across the street had gone completely dark, no lights in any windows, no signs of life. The same was true for the building next to theirs. How long have we been the only ones left? He wondered aloud. Agent Chen's final working radio picked up a transmission from CBSI headquarters. Multiple sites confirmed empty. Residual electromagnetic signatures suggest instantaneous mass displacement. Origin point triangulated to underground facility beneath intersection Riverside 5th. The traffic light's Morse messages became rapid fire. Study complete. Subjects no longer required. Initiating displacement protocol. Thank you for your cooperation. Through the sealed windows, Marcus watched as the asphalt around the traffic light began to shift and crack. Something was rising from beneath the street, a metallic structure, geometric and alien, that had been hidden underground. The traffic light was just its communication antenna. Cars continued to drive around the emerging structure as if it wasn't there. Pedestrians walked past without looking. Whatever technology was at work created perfect camouflage, hiding the impossible in plain sight. They've been studying us like lab rats, Jake said, his voice hollow. Testing our responses, our behavior patterns, our social structures. The structure fully emerged now, a pyramidal form about 3 stories tall, covered in surfaces that seemed to bend light around them. The traffic light sat at its apex, no longer disguised as municipal equipment but revealed as sophisticated alien technology. Marcus felt a strange tingling sensation throughout his body, starting at his fingertips and spreading inward. Looking at his hands, he saw they were becoming translucent. The displacement, Dr. Park said, her own voice echoing strangely as she too began to fade. They're moving us somewhere else. As the displacement field intensified, Marcus managed to grab his phone, one of the few devices still functioning. He activated its video recording feature and pointed it at the window. If anyone finds this, he said, his voice distorting as his body continued to become transparent, the traffic lights aren't just traffic lights. The street lamps aren't just street lamps. They're watching, learning, studying us. This building, these disappearances, it's all connected to. The recording cut off as his phone, too, began to fade. Agent Chen, now barely visible, managed to activate an emergency beacon, a device designed to function even under extreme electromagnetic interference. CBSI base, she whispered, pattern confirmed. Large-scale intelligence gathering operation. Subjects being relocated for. She couldn't finish the sentence as she dissolved completely. Marcus was the last to fade. As the displacement field enveloped him, he looked down at the street one final time. The alien structure was sinking back beneath the asphalt, the traffic light resuming its normal appearance. Cars began moving through the intersection again, their drivers unaware that an entire building full of people had just vanished. But Marcus noticed something else. Other traffic lights throughout the city were beginning to blink in strange patterns. The study was expanding, moving to new neighborhoods, new buildings, new subjects. His last conscious thought was a desperate hope that someone, somewhere, would recognize the patterns and understand the warning before it was too late. The building on Riverside Avenue stood empty for exactly 24 hours. Then new tenants began moving in, people who responded to incredibly attractive lease offers, people who were told the previous residents had simply decided to relocate due to better opportunities elsewhere. The city's missing persons reports were somehow misfiled, lost in bureaucratic tangles, or dismissed as people simply moving away without forwarding addresses. The CBSI investigation was classified at the highest levels and buried in archives that few people could access. But in buildings across the city, in neighborhoods that had never experienced unusual activity before, residents began noticing strange patterns in their traffic lights. Short flashes, long flashes, deliberate sequences that seemed almost like code, like messages, like warnings that no one was prepared to understand. The study continued, expanding systematically from block to block, building to building, gathering data on human behavior, human society, human vulnerability. The subjects were selected carefully, isolated individuals, small communities, people whose disappearances wouldn't cause immediate alarm. And at each location, the traffic lights blinked their patterns, recording everything, learning everything, preparing for the next phase of a plan that was far larger and far more comprehensive than any single building, any single neighborhood, any single city. The signal continued, patient and persistent, broadcasting its observations to receivers that existed far beyond Earth's atmosphere, to entities that viewed humanity not as a civilization to be conquered, but as a species to be catalogued, studied, and ultimately collected. In basements and sub-basements throughout the urban landscape, geometric structures waited in dormancy, ready to emerge when called upon, ready to complete their harvesting of human specimens for purposes that remained unknown. The traffic lights blinked their patterns, seemingly innocent municipal equipment directing the flow of traffic, while secretly directing a flow of information about every person who passed beneath their electronic gaze. And in the darkness between cities, in the spaces where no human eyes could see, the real work continued, the construction of facilities designed to house and study the billions of subjects that would eventually be collected, sorted, and preserved for the vast xenobiological archive that was slowly, methodically, cataloging every form of life in the galaxy. The signal never stopped. It only grew stronger, more sophisticated, more comprehensive with each passing day, waiting for the moment when the study would be complete and the collection could begin in earnest. Signal strength, maximum data collection, 99.7% complete final phase authorization, pending estimated timeline to full implementation, 72 hours. The lights are watching. The lights are learning. The lights are ready. 3 months after the Riverside Avenue incident, Detective Amanda Walsh was assigned to investigate what the media had dubbed the Vanishing Buildings case. 7 residential structures across the city had been completely evacuated under mysterious circumstances, their residents disappearing without a trace, leaving behind only perfectly maintained apartments and unanswered questions. Amanda had been a skeptic her entire career. 20 years on the force had taught her that there was usually a rational explanation for even the strangest cases. But this one defied logic. Security cameras showed residents entering their buildings and simply never coming out. No bodies, no signs of struggle, no evidence of forced evacuation. The CBSI files on the incidents were classified above her pay grade, but Amanda had contacts in unusual places. Her brother-in-law worked in IT for the city's traffic management department, and he'd been complaining about persistent software glitches in the central control system. "It's the weirdest thing, Amanda," he told her over coffee. "Every time we try to run diagnostics on certain intersections, the system crashes. But the lights keep working perfectly. It's like they're operating independently of our network." Amanda's instincts told her this wasn't coincidence. That evening, she drove to each of the 7 empty buildings, noting their locations, their proximity to major intersections, their sight lines to traffic signals. A pattern emerged. Each building offered a perfect vantage point to observe the traffic light control systems. As she sat in her car outside the former Riverside Avenue building, now showing signs of new occupancy, Amanda noticed something that made her pulse quicken. The traffic light was flashing in deliberate sequences, not the random malfunctions she expected, but purposeful, structured patterns. She had learned Morse code during her brief stint in the military reserves. What she saw made her blood run cold. New subjects identified. Surveillance active. Amanda immediately called her partner, Detective Mike Harrison, a man who had seen enough strange cases to keep an open mind. "Mike, I need you to meet me at the precinct. Bring the electromagnetic scanner from the evidence locker, the one we used on the Brennan electronics case." Within an hour, they were back at the intersection, equipment in hand. The scanner immediately detected intense electromagnetic activity coming not just from the traffic light, but from underground, a massive energy signature that extended in a network pattern beneath the entire city block. "Jesus, Amanda," Mike whispered, watching the readings. "It's like there's an entire city down there." The traffic lights' Morse messages became more frequent as their scanning intensified. Surveillance detected. Implementing countermeasures. Subjects classified as hostile. Recommend immediate containment. Amanda's phone began receiving text messages from an unknown number. "Detective Walsh, you are in danger. Do not trust official channels. Meet me at coordinates 40.7589 minus 73.9851. Come alone. A friend from beneath." The coordinates led to Central Park, to a maintenance shed near the reservoir that was supposed to be abandoned. As Amanda approached, a figure emerged from the shadows, a man in his 40s wearing clothes that seemed slightly out of place, as if from a different era. "Detective Walsh," he said, his voice carrying an odd accent she couldn't identify. "My name is Dr. Elena Vasquez. I was the xenobiologist assigned to the Riverside Avenue case." "Dr. Vasquez was reported missing 3 months ago," Amanda said carefully, her hand moving toward her service weapon. "I was displaced, not missing," the woman, who clearly wasn't Dr. Vasquez despite claiming to be, replied. "Along with 47 other people from that building. We've been held in a research facility approximately 2.3 miles beneath the city's surface." Amanda's training told her this was either an elaborate hoax or evidence of serious mental illness. But something in the stranger's eyes, an intelligence that seemed ancient despite the relatively young face, made her listen. "The entities conducting these studies are not from Earth," the figure continued. "They've been observing human civilization for approximately 3 centuries, but only recently began active specimen collection. The traffic light network is their primary surveillance system. If you're really Dr. Vasquez, prove it." The stranger rolled up their sleeve, revealing a small, geometric scar that seemed to shift and move under the skin. "This is a tracking implant. All specimens receive one. It allows us limited access to their communication network. That's how I was able to contact you." Amanda's radio crackled to life with her partner's voice. "Amanda, where are you? We've got reports of unusual activity at your location. Multiple units are responding." The stranger grabbed Amanda's arm with surprising strength. "Your communication devices are compromised. They know you're investigating. You have perhaps 10 minutes before they implement containment protocols for this sector." "What do you want from me?" "The displaced subjects. We're planning resistance from within their facility. But we need someone on the surface to coordinate with other law enforcement agencies to spread awareness before they complete their collection phase." Amanda looked around the park, noting that it was unusually empty for an evening hour. Street lamps throughout the area were flickering in synchronous patterns. "They're tracking us now," the stranger said urgently. "I can teach you to recognize their signals, to understand their communication methods. But you must decide quickly, help us, or become another specimen." Police sirens were approaching from multiple directions, but Amanda noticed something wrong. The sirens all sounded slightly off-pitch, and the approaching vehicle's headlights were flashing in the same rhythmic patterns as the traffic lights. "Those aren't real police units," the stranger said. "They're simulations. The entities can replicate human technology, human behavior, even human appearance to a degree. How do you think new residents moved into empty buildings so quickly?" Amanda made a decision that would change everything. She followed the stranger deeper into Central Park, away from the approaching false police units, toward a maintenance tunnel that shouldn't have existed but clearly did. The tunnel system beneath Central Park was vast and clearly not of human construction. The walls seemed to be made of the same light-bending material Amanda had heard described in the classified CBSI reports. Everything felt slightly wrong, angles that shouldn't exist, distances that seemed to change as you walked, and a persistent humming that came from everywhere and nowhere. "The facility extends beneath most of Manhattan," the stranger explained as they walked. "What you see as New York City is essentially built on top of their research installation. They've been here much longer than humans have occupied this continent." They reached a junction where multiple tunnels converged, and Amanda saw them, dozens of people in clothes from different time periods, all bearing the same geometric scars as her guide. "Welcome to the Resistance," said a man in what appeared to be 1950s attire. "I'm Detective Robert Morrison, disappeared from the 14th Precinct in 1953. I've been leading our intelligence-gathering operations." Amanda's worldview crumbled and reformed in seconds. "You've been down here for 70 years? Time works differently in the facility," explained a woman in modern dress. "I'm Dr. Sarah Chin, CBSI agent. I was displaced 3 days ago from your timeline, but I've experienced approximately 6 months here." The group led Amanda to what they called the Communications Hub, a large cavern where human technology had been jury-rigged to interface with alien systems. Screens showed surveillance feeds from traffic lights across not just New York, but cities worldwide. London, Tokyo, Sao Paulo, Lagos. Detective Morrison pointed to different feeds. "The collection network is global. They're not just studying individual humans anymore, they're mapping entire civilizations." Dr. Chin activated a display showing electromagnetic activity across Manhattan. Every traffic light, every street lamp, every electronic billboard is part of their network. "But we've discovered something they don't know we know. The system has vulnerabilities." Amanda watched in fascination as the screens showed the aliens' true scope. The fake police units that had responded to her investigation were just the beginning. Throughout the city, perhaps 15 to 20% of the population weren't human at all, but sophisticated replicas designed to maintain the illusion of normalcy as more and more real humans disappeared. "They're replacing us gradually," explained another displaced person, a young man who introduced himself as Marcus Thompson, the IT technician from the original Riverside incident. "Perfect copies that maintain our jobs, our relationships, our routines. No one notices that the real person is gone." "What's their endgame?" Amanda asked. Detective Morrison pulled up a schematic that showed collection facilities beneath major cities worldwide. Complete cataloging and preservation of human civilization. They're essentially creating a museum of our species. The question is whether they plan to keep us alive as exhibits or simply preserve our DNA and behavioral data. Dr. Chin pointed to readings that showed increasing energy signatures. "Based on the network activity, we estimate they're accelerating toward a final collection phase. Within 72 hours, they may attempt to displace the majority of Earth's human population." "Can we stop them?" "Not stop," Marcus said grimly. "But we might be able to disrupt the process long enough to warn the surface world. The key is their communication network. If we can introduce a virus into the traffic light system, we can force them to reveal themselves." Amanda realized the magnitude of what they were asking. "You want me to go back to the surface and convince my colleagues that the majority of our city is controlled by underground aliens who are replacing humans with perfect copies?" "We want you to survive," Detective Morrison corrected. "Because once the final phase begins, anyone still on the surface will be collected immediately. But if you choose to help, you could save millions of lives." The displaced humans had been working for months or years, depending on their temporal displacement, to understand the alien technology. They had identified critical nodes in the communication network, weak points in the surveillance system, and most importantly, a way to broadcast a warning signal that would reveal the false humans for what they really were. "The geometric implants they gave us were meant to be tracking devices," Dr. Chin explained. "But we've learned to use them as transmitters. If we can coordinate a simultaneous signal from all displaced subjects while you activate the virus on the surface network, we can create enough electromagnetic disruption to force their hand." Amanda looked around at the faces of people who had been declared missing, people who had families and lives stolen from them, people who had been turned into laboratory specimens. The decision wasn't really difficult. "Tell me what I need to do." Returning to the surface was like entering an alien world disguised as home. Amanda now recognized the signs she had missed before, the slightly off expressions on familiar faces, the perfectly coordinated movements of crowds at intersection, the way electronic devices responded just a fraction of a second too quickly to user input. Her partner Mike was waiting at the precinct, but something was wrong with his eyes. They reflected light differently, and when he spoke, His voice carried the same odd harmonic quality she had noticed in the fake police sirens. "Amanda, where have you been? We searched Central Park for hours. Did you find anything unusual?" She had to act normally while knowing that the mic she had worked with for 8 years might have been replaced by an alien duplicate. "Dead end," she lied smoothly. "Probably just equipment malfunction." The virus the Resistance had given her was stored on a modified flash drive that looked like standard police equipment. She needed to access the city's traffic management central computer, which required clearance she didn't have. But she knew someone who did. Her brother-in-law's access to the traffic control systems would be perfect, except she couldn't be sure if he was still human. The plan required her to take a calculated risk. That evening, she called him with a fabricated story about needing his help with a cybercrime investigation involving traffic light hacking. He agreed to meet her at the control center during his night shift. The facility was a nondescript building in Queens, filled with servers and monitoring equipment that managed traffic flow across the 5 boroughs. As Amanda waited for her brother-in-law to arrive, she noticed something disturbing. Every screen in the facility was displaying the same subtle, rhythmic flashing pattern she had learned to recognize as alien communication. When Tom arrived, Amanda watched him carefully as he walked through the security checkpoints. His movements were natural, his conversation normal, but when he turned on the main computer systems, she saw it, a brief flash of that geometric pattern reflected in his pupils. Tom was no longer entirely human. "So what exactly are we looking for?" he asked as he pulled up the traffic management interface. Amanda had seconds to decide whether to proceed with the plan or abort. If Tom was compromised, inserting the virus might trigger immediate countermeasures. But if she didn't act, the final collection phase would begin within hours. She made her choice. "I need to run a diagnostic on the communication protocols," she said, producing the modified flash drive. "There might be unauthorized access to the network." As Tom inserted the drive into the central server, Amanda held her breath. For a moment, nothing happened. Then every screen in the facility began displaying the same message simultaneously. "Network intrusion detected, initiating emergency protocols. All units respond immediately." Tom turned toward her, and his face was no longer entirely human. The geometric patterns that had been hidden beneath synthetic skin became visible, creating a shifting, prismatic effect across his features. "Detective Walsh," he said, but his voice was now clearly artificial, layered with harmonic frequencies that hurt to hear. "You have interfered with critical research. You will be contained for immediate study." Every electronic device in the facility began broadcasting the same signal. Traffic lights throughout the city started flashing in perfect synchronization, street lamps pulsed with unnatural colors, and digital billboards displayed abstract geometric patterns that seemed to move and shift. But Amanda's virus was working. As the alien network tried to coordinate its response, critical systems began to fail. Traffic lights began displaying actual Morse code messages that human observers could read. "Not human," replaced, "They are here. Look up." Across the city, people stopped in the middle of sidewalks, staring at the impossible messages flashing above their heads. News stations began broadcasting emergency reports about the coordinated electronic malfunction, but those reports were suddenly interrupted by something unprecedented. The geometric structures began rising from beneath every major intersection. The emergence was simultaneous and coordinated. In Times Square, Central Park, Brooklyn Bridge, and dozens of other locations, the street surfaces cracked and split as massive pyramidal structures pushed their way to the surface. Each one was crowned with what had appeared to be ordinary traffic equipment, now revealed as sophisticated alien communication arrays. Dr. Chin had been right about the timeline. The disruption Amanda had caused forced the aliens to accelerate their final collection phase, but it also exposed them to the entire world. News helicopters captured footage of the impossible structures, their light-bending surfaces creating visual distortions that made them appear to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Military units were dispatched, but their equipment failed to function within a certain radius of the alien installations. More disturbing than the structures themselves was what they revealed about the population. As the electromagnetic disruption spread throughout the city, The synthetic humans began to malfunction visibly. Their human disguises flickered and failed, revealing the geometric, crystalline forms beneath. Amanda watched from the traffic control facility as chaos erupted outside. Real humans ran in panic as their neighbors, co-workers, even family members were revealed to be alien replacements. The scope of the infiltration was staggering. In some areas, more than half the population appeared to be synthetic. Her radio, one of the few pieces of technology still functioning normally, crackled with transmissions from the underground resistance. Surface agent, this is Morrison. Phase 2 is active. All displaced subjects are transmitting disruption signals. We estimate 12 minutes before they regain full system control. Amanda looked at Tom, whose synthetic form was sparking and twitching as his systems failed. "How many of us are left?" she asked, though she wasn't sure if he could still understand her. His response came in the harmonically distorted voice. "Sufficient specimens have been preserved. Surface collection will proceed with remaining subjects. Resistance is noted but ineffective." Through the facility's windows, Amanda could see streams of light connecting the various alien structures across the city. The collection process was beginning. Humans throughout Manhattan were being pulled upward by tractor beams, disappearing into the geometric installations. But something was going wrong with their plan. The virus Amanda had introduced, combined with the resistance signals from below, was creating cascading failures throughout their network. Instead of orderly collection, the process was becoming chaotic and destructive. Buildings were collapsing as their foundations, undermined by the hidden alien infrastructure, gave way. Power grids failed as alien energy systems overloaded. Transportation networks ground to a halt as synthetic operators throughout the system revealed their true nature. Amanda's radio crackled again. "All units, this is Morrison. The disruption is working, but we're causing critical instability. The underground facility is beginning to collapse. All displaced subjects need immediate evacuation to the surface." "How?" Amanda asked. "The collection beams are still active. The geometric implants," came Dr. Chen's voice over the radio. "We can use them to disrupt the tractor beam frequencies, but only for short periods. You need to coordinate surface evacuation while we make our way up." Amanda realized she had become the liaison between two groups of humans fighting for their species' survival, those hiding underground and those still free on the surface. But the surface was rapidly becoming uninhabitable as alien technology revealed itself everywhere. Street lamps were unfolding into complex scanning devices. Traffic signals had become weapons platforms. Even electronic billboards were projecting containment fields designed to trap humans for collection. Her phone, modified by the resistance to work independently of the compromised networks, received a text message from an unknown sender. "Detective Walsh, this is Agent Chin. The implants are giving us access to their command frequencies. We've learned their true purpose. The collection isn't for study, it's for transportation. They're relocating the entire human species to another planet. The question is, do we fight evacuation, or do we try to ensure our survival during the journey?" The message was followed by coordinates and a time. "Central Park, Main Reservoir, 2347. Decision must be made collectively." Amanda looked at her watch. She had 17 minutes to cross a city in chaos, avoid collection beams, evade malfunctioning synthetic humans, and help make a choice that would determine the future of humanity. Outside, the alien structures were growing taller, their collection beams intensifying, and the number of humans still free was decreasing rapidly. But in the distance, she could see other lights, emergency flares, flashlights, signal mirrors, messages from human survivors organizing their own resistance throughout the city. The battle for Earth wasn't over yet. Central Park had become a war zone. The alien installation at its center towered nearly 100 stories high, its crystalline surfaces reflecting and refracting the lights of the city into impossible geometric patterns. Collection beams swept back and forth like searchlights, pulling humans upward into processing chambers within the structure. Amanda reached the reservoir by following subway tunnels. The underground transit system was one of the few places the collection beams couldn't penetrate effectively. She wasn't alone. hundreds of other survivors had discovered the same refuge, and they were organized. Emergency responders, military personnel, civilians, and even some CBSI agents who hadn't been replaced were coordinating rescue efforts and resistance activities. At the center of it all was Detective Morrison, somehow transported from the underground facility along with Dr. Chen and dozens of other displaced subjects. "The situation is more complex than we initially understood," Dr. Chen announced to the gathered crowd. "The entities aren't trying to exterminate us, they're trying to preserve us. Earth's ecosystem is failing faster than your surface scientists realize. Their planet harvesting operation is actually a conservation effort." Murmurs of disbelief and anger rippled through the crowd, but Dr. Chen continued, "The synthetic replacements weren't meant to fool us permanently. They were maintaining critical infrastructure while the real humans were being safely relocated to prepared habitats on their ships." Amanda looked around at faces illuminated by emergency lighting, people who had lost homes, families, entire lives to this conservation effort. "What about consent?" she asked. "What about choice?" An alien voice responded, not through translation or technology, but directly in their minds. The communication was clear and emotionless. "Your species lacks the collective decision-making ability to choose survival over immediate comfort. Individual consent would result in species extinction within 47 years. Preservation protocols require comprehensive relocation." Detective Morrison stepped forward, his decades of experience dealing with hostage situations evident in his posture. "What guarantees do we have? How do we know you won't simply catalog us and dispose of us when you're finished studying human civilization?" Current preserved populations of 17 species indicate 94.3% survival rate during relocation process. Habitat worlds are designed to maintain cultural and biological continuity. Your species will be settled on a planet where your civilization can develop without ecological constraints. Dr. Chen activated a device she had brought from the underground facility, a modified implant that displayed visual information directly to their minds. What they saw was staggering: vast ships in orbit containing perfectly recreated environments from Earth, complete with cities, forests, oceans, and millions of humans living seemingly normal lives. "The people taken over the past months aren't prisoners," she explained. "They're pioneers, preparing habitats for mass relocation. The synthetic replacements were maintaining Earth's systems until evacuation could be completed." But Marcus Thompson, the IT technician whose disappearance had started this entire chain of events, had a different perspective. "They're still making the choice for us. And what happens to Earth? What happens to our history, our achievements, everything we've built here?" The alien communication continued. "Earth will be restored to pre-industrial ecological balance. Your monuments and cultural artifacts are being preserved. Your literature, art, music, and scientific achievements are archived. Human civilization continues, but in a sustainable environment." Amanda realized this was the ultimate ethical dilemma. The aliens were offering species survival at the cost of planetary abandonment. They were being forced to choose between certain extinction on a dying Earth or guaranteed survival on an alien world designed to replicate their home. "How long do we have to decide?" she asked. "Ecological collapse accelerates. Collection must be completed within 6 hours. Those who resist will be preserved through involuntary relocation. Consent improves transition experience but is not required for species preservation." The crowd around the reservoir was split. Some people wanted to fight, to remain on Earth regardless of consequences. Others were willing to trust the aliens' promise of a better world. Still others wanted more information, more time, more choices. But Amanda noticed something the aliens might not have anticipated. The humans weren't just making individual choices, they were organizing, communicating, planning together in ways that their comprehensive behavioral studies might not have predicted. Small groups formed naturally, families staying together, professionals coordinating with colleagues, communities maintaining their social bonds even in crisis. The humans were adapting to the situation in real time, creating new forms of cooperation and decision-making. Dr. Chen's modified implant was allowing limited two-way communication with the alien network. Amanda asked her to transmit a counterproposal. We want to send volunteer advance teams to evaluate the habitat worlds. We want guarantees that human governments and institutions will be maintained. We want the right to return to Earth if your restoration project succeeds. And we want time to evacuate on our own terms, not under crisis conditions. The response came after a long pause. Proposal is unprecedented. Consultation with oversight entities required. Temporary suspension of involuntary collection authorized for negotiation period. Throughout the city, the collection beams shut down. The geometric structures remained, but their immediate threat diminished. Humanity had gained something precious, time to choose its own future, even if the options were limited. But as Amanda looked up at the alien installations towering over New York City, she wondered whether they were negotiating their species' survival or just the terms of their surrender. The real test would come when they had to decide whether to trust beings who had studied them for centuries, replace them with synthetic copies, and were now offering salvation from a planet they claimed was doomed. Outside the park, across the city, millions of humans were making the same calculation: accept an alien promise of survival on unknown worlds, or fight for the right to die on the planet where their species evolved. The collection beams had stopped, but the countdown to humanity's greatest decision continued. Signal strength, variable data collection, 100% complete final phase status, under negotiation species preservation, in progress. The lights have stopped watching. The lights are now waiting. The choice is finally ours.